Single father adopts orphan twins, he turns pale after seeing their birth certificates.
Hello everyone, enjoy these relaxing moments while you watch.
Late autumn in Santa Fe, the sky poured down a relentless, freezing rain, like the cold fingers of the past wrapping around Daniel's neck. A thin man, his hair speckled with gray, limped along as he walked his old bicycle back to his shabby boarding house. His hollow eyes reflected the flickering, puddled streetlights. The wind howled through the empty alleys, no one bothered to turn around. Daniel used to be a delivery driver for a pharmaceutical company in Los Angeles, until the day his truck veered off the road into a ditch. He survived miraculously but with severe consequences, persistent short-term memory loss and a jagged scar at the base of his neck. Since then, he lived like a shadow, taking odd jobs, eating stale bread, and staying silent. Just as he turned onto Franklin Street, Daniel froze. In the rain, a faint whimper broke through, as weak as a kitten's cry. Something moved under a metal trash bin. He approached cautiously, hands trembling as he lifted the lid and froze. Two children, a boy and a girl, around 6 years old, were curled up inside an old burlap sack. Their clothes were torn, their bodies bruised, lips pale, limbs frail. The girl looked at him, tears drowning her blue eyes. The boy said nothing, he only clung to his sister. "Oh my God," Daniel stammered. "What are you doing here? Who did this to you?" The girl whispered, voice hoarse, "Please, don't take us back there." Daniel took off his coat and wrapped it around both of them, ignoring the cold rain and the slippery street. He raced on his bike to Our Lady of the Meadows Hospital. But the spark of hope was quickly extinguished. "Sorry, sir. We can't accept children without proper legal documents. It's the new law, you know that," said a young doctor named Dr. Martin Carter, speaking through the barely opened door. "They were beaten. Can't you see that? They'll die," Daniel shouted. "We're not a shelter," the doctor replied coldly. "Call the police if you must, but don't bring this kind of problem here." Daniel stood in the pouring rain, speechless. The children, nameless, without background, held nothing but fear in their eyes. In the end, he carried them away from the hospital in despair. His boarding room was on the attic floor, damp, musty, stale. The flickering fluorescent light barely worked. The heater had been broken for years. Daniel pulled the last pack of crackers from his pocket and handed it to the girl. "What's your name?" Daniel asked, sitting next to the thin mattress on the floor. "I'm Callie," the girl replied, still watching her brother closely. "And your brother?" "Brian," she said, turning to him and whispering something Daniel couldn't hear. Brian said nothing. He just held tightly to a headless old doll. Daniel took off his shoes and gently wiped the dirt from the children's bodies with a wet cloth. His hands trembled. "Callie, who left you there?" "Someone took us in a car. He wore a mask, smelled like antiseptic. He said if we were good, we could go home to our mom, but we don't have a mom," she said, her breath shaking. Daniel went still. The wind rattled the window frame. 2 days later, Daniel came home from work to find a thick envelope at his door, no return name. Inside were 2 notarized birth certificates with pictures of Callie and Brian. Father's name, Daniel Rogers. Mother, unknown. His hands shook violently. Cold sweat trickled down his neck. He looked in the mirror, the scar at his nape pulsed with pain. "No. I don't have kids. I know I don't." Callie's voice called from behind, "Daddy, Brian's coughing a lot." Daniel turned. Callie had just called him Daddy. "Not Mr., not Sir. You called me Daddy." She nodded gently. "Because I dreamed you saved us. When we were at that place, it was dark, only you came." Daniel said nothing. His throat closed up. He sat down and pulled the children into his arms. Outside, the rain kept falling. The 3 of them didn't know what they were to each other, only that they needed each other to survive. That evening, Daniel walked to the nearby corner store. The owner, an old American woman named Rose, was stern and quiet. "Buying canned porridge again, Daniel," she glared. "Yes. And some cough syrup for kids, the mild kind." "Kids?" Rose squinted. "Don't tell me you're hiding someone in your room. This ain't no charity house." Daniel bowed his head. I can't leave them alone." "Well, you'd better be careful. Last time someone did that, the whole place got seized." Daniel took the bag silently and left. The rain had started again. That night, Callie coughed non-stop. Brian had a slight fever. Daniel sat beside them, fanning them with his sleeve. He whispered, "Callie, if someone asks tomorrow, what's your daddy's name?" Callie opened her eyes and murmured, "Daniel Rogers." Daniel was stunned. That was his real name, yes, but how did Callie know? "How do you know my name?" She smiled faintly. "It's on the paper. And, in the dream, Mom called you that." "Mom?" Daniel stepped back, heart pounding. Callie nodded. "Mom has black hair, white skin, eyes like mine. She said you'd come back." Daniel clutched his head. His vision blurred. Flashes of broken memories. Had he been with these children before? Was he really their father? Or just another pawn in a sick game? Suddenly, footsteps echoed in the hallway. Someone knocked hard on the door. Daniel stood, his heart seized. He whispered to Callie, "Don't make a sound." A man's voice called from outside, cold and precise. "Daniel Rogers? I'm Andrew Miller with City Child Protection Services. We need to talk." Daniel backed away, eyes darting to the paring knife on the counter. Brian shot up, eyes wide in terror. "It's him," the boy screamed. "I know that smell." Callie trembled, crawled into the closet, and pulled Brian in. Daniel swallowed hard, crept to the window, and jumped onto the adjacent balcony, disappearing into the cold night. The rain didn't stop. Daniel huddled against a mossy brick wall, chest heaving, arms wrapped around the two trembling children. The old boarding house was no longer safe. That man Miller was not a social worker. Daniel had seen that look in his eyes before, somewhere in the hazy shadows of his lost memories. "Daddy," Callie whispered. "Brian's dreaming again." Daniel looked down, brushing her hair. "What's he dreaming about?" Callie murmured, "He came again, with the mask, black hands, always saying, 'Be good, and you can go home to mommy.'" Brian, resting against the wall, eyes still shut, broke into cold sweat. He mumbled something unintelligible, then suddenly bolted upright, screaming, "No more shots. No more shots. Shoo, it's okay, son. No one's going to hurt you," Daniel whispered, holding him close, heartbreaking. By late night, Daniel led them to an abandoned house near the old train tracks, once a shelter for the homeless. The rusty metal door creaked open. Inside, it was pitch dark. Wind howled through the cracks like faint groans. Inside, a gray-haired woman was building a fire. She looked up as Daniel entered. Her eyes were lined deep with age. "Daniel?" she asked, her voice raspy. "You are?" "I'm Patricia Davis." "You, really don't remember me?" Daniel froze. The name was familiar, but his brain was just fog. "You know me?" "Of course." She nodded, tossing more wood into the flames. "You used to work for him." "For Albert Parker." Daniel stepped back, instinctively pulling Brian close. "Don't be afraid," she continued. "You were the only one who turned against him. You saved the children that night, then disappeared." Callie looked up, eyes wide. "You mean Daddy really saved us?" Patricia nodded. "He drove a truck into the gates of the Clear Life Institute. Unlocked the doors. Took you out. But before he could get far, they caught him. I saw them inject something into his neck, then erase all his records. Daniel backed into the wall, cold sweat running down his spine. Clear Life Institute, he stammered. The charity place, where I used to deliver meds. Not charity at all. Patricia scoffed. It's a cover-up lab. Albert ran the place. Used the orphan care label to collect undocumented kids and test memory-erasing drugs. The children lost their minds, their names, became obedient little pets. Callie shivered. I remember once being tied up, there were knocks, green lights, and I slept for a long time. Brian clung to her. They stuck me. I saw blood, then everything went black. Daniel dropped to his knees and hugged the kids. His head was spinning. Shards of memory rushed back, the truck crash, the surgery lights, the growled voice in his ear, leave, or you'll forget who you are. Patricia pulled a crumpled note from her pocket and handed it to Daniel. This is the address of a mansion on the outskirts of Albuquerque. It used to be the main lab. After your breakout, they abandoned it. Why are you helping me? Daniel asked. I lost a grandchild to them once. Never found the body. I've stayed alive just to wait for someone who would finally expose Albert's true face, Patricia said, eyes reddened. Daniel clenched his fists. I'm getting these kids out of here. Patricia nodded. But be careful. If you're still alive after all this, it means he's not done with you yet. The next morning. Santa Fe lay under a thick fog. Daniel stopped by a roadside cafe to get some warm water for the kids. The place was run by an old man named Roger Stewart, someone who'd once known him back when he worked deliveries. Daniel? Been a long time, Roger said, pouring coffee, his tone cautious. I'm just passing through. I need some hot water. Roger tilted his head. I saw the news. You're taking care of 2 undocumented kids, right? Daniel said nothing. Roger glanced out the window, where Callie and Brian sat huddled under the awning. I don't want to get involved, but if you need some old bread, take it. Daniel nodded in gratitude. As he stepped toward the door, the landline rang. Roger picked it up, then turned back, pale. You've got to go. Someone from Los Angeles is asking about you. They said they're from the Clear Life Institute. Daniel grabbed the children's hands. We have to go. Now. That night, while the 3 of them were resting in an abandoned train station, Callie cried out in a nightmare. She screamed, tears pouring down her cheeks, "Don't take my brother. Don't lock him in the cold room again." Daniel shook her awake, trying to comfort her. Brian scooted close to his sister and whispered, I remember. He made her take off her clothes, then stuck something to her head. Daniel froze. He no longer had doubts. The memories were too clear. Callie and Brian were victims. And he had once worked at that place. But he wasn't the perpetrator, he was the one who'd said no. A traitor to the system. Patricia's words echoed in his head, if you don't run now, he'll come for the kids. Daniel tightened his grip. Time was running out. The wind howled like it wanted to peel skin. Daniel led Callie and Brian down a narrow alley behind the old station. He panted, staggering. His shoes were torn, soaked, and caked in mud. Night had fully fallen. Streetlights flickered weakly, casting cold yellow light on the damp concrete walls. Brian kept mumbling, he's coming, he's watching me. Callie clutched Daniel's coat, pale as a ghost. Daddy. I hear a car. Daniel turned. A black Audi with tinted windows glided silently behind them like a predator. He hunched down, scooped up the children, and dashed into a narrow escape between 2 ruined buildings. The door of the abandoned house creaked open, its rusted hinges screaming like tortured souls. Daniel set the children against the wall, motioning for silence. Don't make a sound, understand? No matter who knocks, don't answer. Callie hugged her brother, tears falling silently. Daniel peeked out. The dark had swallowed the black car. Then, blackout. A sharp click. The streetlights died. The house plunged into pitch blackness. Daniel jumped as the front door creaked open a sliver. No one stood outside, but on the rotted wooden table was a dagger stabbed into its center, and beside it, a rain-soaked piece of paper written in dried blood. Give them back to me. Daniel collapsed to his knees, shaking violently. Callie screamed, Daddy. He knows. Brian curled up like a frightened animal, his eyes glazed. Daniel shouted, Horse, run. Run now. He grabbed the children and burst out the back door, racing across a muddy lot. Rain poured down in a torrent like the end of the world. After 3 straight hours of fleeing, the 3 of them found an abandoned warehouse by the highway. Daniel shoved the door open and wedged it shut with a broken steel rod. The room was empty, the concrete floor ice cold, the stench of mold suffocating. Callie gasped for breath. I can't breathe. Daniel pulled off his coat and wrapped her up. Brian lay face down in the corner, then suddenly started convulsing. Brian! Daniel yelled, flipping his son over. The boy's eyes rolled back, his body shivering violently. Fever. No, not now, Daniel whispered. Not now. He rummaged through the backpack, no medicine left. Just a few moldy slices of bread and a nearly empty water bottle. I have to get him to a hospital, he muttered to himself. But, we don't have papers. They'll take us, Callie croaked. Daniel bit his lip until it bled. He looked out toward the deserted street. Across the road was a small pharmacy, Rodriguez Pharmacy. Stay here. I'll get the medicine and come back, he said, placing his hand on Callie's cheek. Don't let anyone in. Understand? Callie nodded. I'll protect him. Daniel ran out, slipped in the mud, then bolted across the road. Inside the pharmacy, a slim woman in her 40s with glasses stood behind the counter, Alice Rogers. Hello. What do you need? She asked, not looking up from her phone. Fever reducer. 4 kids. Fast. I don't have a prescription. She looked up and frowned. No prescription. I don't sell high-dosage meds without one. Please, my son's seizing, Daniel pleaded, eyes blazing. Alice squinted. You're the guy from TV, aren't you? The kidnapper. Daniel Rogers. Daniel froze. She backed up and reached for the landline. Don't, he shouted, leaping over the counter. I just need the medicine. I won't hurt you. Alice screamed, help. Somebody, help me. Footsteps approached from outside. Daniel grabbed a bottle of children's fever medicine, knocked over a shelf, and fled through the front door, sprinting with the bottle in hand as sirens began to wail in the distance. Back at the warehouse, Callie opened the door with tears in her eyes. Brian, he's really bad. Daniel lifted his son. Brian's body was burning hot, eyes dull, lips cracked. Drink, son, please, this'll make you better, he whispered, pouring the medicine into the boy's mouth. Brian coughed, swallowed a bit, then wheezed softly. Daniel knelt beside them, trembling like a man on the edge. I've failed you. I can't even protect you. Callie gently hugged him from behind. I believe in you, Daddy. Only you can get us out. Daniel broke down in tears for the first time in years. But the tragedy wasn't over. At dawn, while all 3 were dozing off, the screech of tires outside jolted Daniel awake. He pulled aside a torn curtain, the black car was parked right in front of the warehouse. No, no way, he whispered. Callie woke, her eyes wide. Daddy, he's here. Daniel scooped up Brian, pulled Callie toward the back door. He pushed it led to a tall steel fence. No way out. A man's voice echoed outside, low and calm, like a lullaby. Daniel Rogers, you can't hide forever. Daniel breathed hard. I'm not afraid of you anymore, Albert. Silence. Then, a hiss. The tires caught fire. Daniel screamed, run. The three darted out the side. Daniel slammed into a metal bin and fell hard. Callie grabbed his hand and pulled him up. Behind them, the warehouse door burst open. Flashlights swept through the dark. Get him, shouted a voice-perfect United States accent. Hired goons. Daniel yelled, Callie, run with your brother. Don't look back. Callie carried Brian and ran down the alley. Daniel wrestled with a large man in black wielding a baton. You have no right to take them, he roared, punching the man in the face. The man fell, but in the distance, the black car pursued Callie. Daniel limped after them, heart pounding like it would explode. Moments later, he found the kids hiding behind an old truck. Callie was trying to wake Brian. Daddy, he's not opening his eyes, he's not talking. Daniel pulled Brian into his arms, pressing his ear to the boy's chest. Still faint, but a heartbeat. He buried his face in the child's hair, whispering, Don't leave me, son, you're all I've got left. Santa Fe, early morning. On TV screens across cafes, train stations, and corner stores, a familiar face appeared. Albert Parker, dashing in a navy blue suit, smiling calmly like a benevolent father. Good morning, United States, he began in a warm, measured tone. I'm Albert Parker, director of the Clear Life Institute charity. Today, I speak to address a tragic situation. Daniel and Callie huddled behind a trash bin outside an abandoned church. He'd found a discarded radio and now clutched it, hands shaking, as the voice played. The man named Daniel Rogers was once a delivery driver at a healthcare facility partnered with us. Sadly, he developed mental health issues following a car accident in 2019. A troubled man, detached from reality. Daniel clenched his fists. He's lying. Albert's voice continued. Recently, he broke into a medical center and kidnapped two innocent children, Callie and Brian. We believe he intends to smuggle them overseas for organ trafficking. Documents recovered show his ties to a child smuggling ring near the Mexico border. Callie gasped. Daddy, what is he saying? Daniel remained silent. His eyes were glued to the radio. These are the fake birth certificates he used, Albert said, holding up two official-looking papers listing Daniel Rogers as the legal father. We've confirmed, they're fabrications from a disturbed individual. He ended with a call to action. If anyone sees the man in this photo, please call the Clear Life Institute hotline immediately. Together, we can save innocent children. The screen shifted to a portrait of Daniel, pale face, vacant eyes, captured secretly at a gas station just days ago. Bastard! Daniel slammed his fist into the ground, his face ghost white. Callie clutched her brother, tears streaming silently. Daniel panted, I have to go. I have to find a way to refute this. If I don't, the whole country will hunt me like a rabid dog. Daddy, can we go to Miss Patricia's house? Callie whispered. Daniel shook his head. No. They'll be watching everyone linked to me. There's only one option, run. But first. He looked at Brian, who was breathing heavily. We need medicine. And food. Stay here. Don't go anywhere. He entered a small supermarket called Franklin Market. The cashier was a young man with bleached hair, name tag reading Lewis Morgan. Excuse me, can I get some porridge, warm water, and children's fever reducer? The mild kind? Daniel asked. Lewis looked up, eyes freezing for a moment. He whistled softly. Just a second, sir, he said, walking into the back, whispering something to his coworker. Daniel started to feel uneasy. He slowly edged toward the door. Louis returned, smiling. "Sorry, we're out of porridge. Try another store." Daniel nodded and turned to leave. But as he touched the door handle, the outside loudspeaker blared. "That's him. Daniel Rogers. Get him." A crowd had gathered at the entrance, holding up phones to record, some with handmade signs. "Keep that freak out of our neighborhood." Panic-stricken, Daniel shoved over a display rack and bolted through the back door. In his panic, he dashed through the flea market and collided with an elderly woman selling pastries, Melissa Wilson. Her pastries flew everywhere. "You monster! You sick bastard," she screamed. "That's the guy on TV. The kidnapper." Daniel kept running, shouting, "I didn't do anything. You don't know the truth." A burly man from the vegetable stall lunged and punched Daniel's shoulder. He hit the ground, blood trickling from his forehead. "Don't touch my kids," he screamed desperately, scrambling back to his feet. Eventually, he made it back to the abandoned parking garage where Callie and Brian were hiding. Dusk had fallen, casting a sickly yellow hue on the oil-stained pavement. Callie ran to him, terrified. "Daddy, where were you? Everyone's saying, you're a bad guy." Daniel collapsed, covering his face. "We've been framed. Albert planned this all along. He's got the media. He's got the police. I don't know what to do anymore." Brian lay on a piece of cardboard, breathing shallowly. Callie draped a ragged cloth over him, tears falling freely. Daniel pulled off his last jacket and wrapped it around Brian. "I have nothing left to lose anymore, baby girl." That night, the three of them curled up beneath the cold concrete of the parking garage. Sirens howled in the distance like an eternal curse. Wind hissed through the cracks, and dust swirled like ghosts. Callie whispered, "Daddy, if something happens, don't leave my brother alone." Daniel couldn't speak. He squeezed her hand. "No one gets left behind. We're one. Even if it kills us." Outside, a black car returned. Headlights swept across the street then died. Darkness swallowed them whole. The rain had not stopped. It was now the third day. Daniel and the two children sheltered in an abandoned underground lot. The concrete floor was freezing. The fluorescent lights hadn't worked in years, only a dim flashlight he'd found in the trash provided any glow. Brian was burning with fever, unconscious, lips cracked, occasionally twitching. Callie had run out of tears. She simply sat beside him, staring into the darkness. "Daddy," Callie whispered, "are we going to die here?" Daniel leaned against a concrete column, eyes bloodshot. He hadn't eaten in 2 days. His head spun. "No. I'll find something. Just need a little more time." Callie tugged at his sleeve. "Let me watch him. You go find food. I'll be okay." Daniel hesitated. "Just a few minutes. Don't leave this spot. Don't open the door. Got it?" "I got it." She nodded. "I won't let anyone touch Brian." Daniel stood, kissed both children on the forehead, and stepped outside, weaving through the wet alleys of Santa Barbara Street. He entered a small cafe on the corner, hoping to get hot water. The owner was an older woman, Evelyn Nelson, who had once given him bread when he was a delivery driver. "Daniel," she looked up, shocked. "You've got some nerve showing your face here. I just need some water for my son. He's burning up. That's all I ask." Evelyn shook her head and pulled out her phone. "I have to call the police. They're looking for you. I don't want trouble. You used to say I was a good man. You were until you started kidnapping children." Evelyn snapped. Daniel swallowed hard. He turned and left without a word. Outside, a few people recognized him. The murmurs started. "That's him," the kidnapper. He rushed back to the underground garage. But as soon as he arrived, he froze. The steel door was wide open. "Callie!" Daniel screamed, bursting in. No one. Only Brian lay alone, the cloth around him torn, his lips swollen from crying. Daniel stumbled to his son. "My baby girl, where is she?" Brian opened his eyes faintly and whispered, "A lady, said she had food, said you sent her." "What lady?" "I didn't send anyone." Brian began to cry. Daniel clutched his head, screaming, "Damn it." Moments later, his old, battered cell phone found in a dumpster rang. Unknown number. No name. Daniel answered. A man's voice came through, sweet, but chilling. "Daniel, that was fast. Aren't you going to thank me for finding your little girl?" "You bastard." Daniel roared. "I'll kill you with my own hands." "I doubt you have the strength left," the voice chuckled. Want to hear her voice? Rustling noises, then Callie screamed. "Daddy! Don't let them inject me. Please, don't let them do it again." "Callie!" Daniel cried, trembling violently. Albert's voice returned, calm. "This new drug is quite special. It erases memories little by little. Erases mothers. Erases fathers. Even names. Eventually, they forget they were ever human." "Stop. I'll do anything. Just don't hurt her." Albert chuckled. "Good. Let's play the old game. Remember the chair? The injection chair?" Daniel said nothing. Albert continued, "You get a choice. One injection for Callie, she'll become obedient, forget all of this, forget you. Or I take Brian next." The line went dead. Daniel collapsed, shaking. He pounded the concrete floor until blood smeared from his knuckles. His face was pale, but his eyes were blazing. Brian gently took his father's hand. "Don't cry, Dad. I'm still here." Daniel gripped his son's hand tightly. "I'm sorry. I couldn't protect your sister." Not long after, he arrived at the North Santa Fe police station. He had nothing left to lose. He shouted in the waiting room. "My daughter's been taken. Help her." People turned. Some recognized him. A young officer, Deputy Inspector James Larson, stepped forward. "Daniel Rogers. Drop any weapons. Get on the ground." "I have no weapons." Daniel yelled, immediately dropping to his knees. "Just find Callie. She's 6. She's my daughter." James approached, locking handcuffs onto Daniel's wrists. "We've got a warrant for your arrest. But if you want to save your kid, shut your mouth. You're not even human." Daniel screamed as he was dragged away. A piece of paper fell from his coat pocket, a drawing by Brian. A masked man holding a syringe. James picked it up. His expression flickered. Then, he folded the drawing, slid it into his pocket, and turned away. Daniel was thrown into a damp holding cell. Sometime later, a visitor arrived. A woman in a white lab coat, Dr. Lucy Mitchell. "Daniel Rogers?" she asked, looking him dead in the eye. "Who are you?" he rasped. "I work for the Clear Life Institute, but I'm not like them." Daniel squinted. "Then why are you here?" Lucy sighed. "Your daughter, she's in a sterile chamber. Albert's testing a new drug. I can't do much, but I can give you this." She handed him a silver USB. "The lab cameras recorded everything. This is a copy. But you'll only get one chance to use it." Daniel took it, hands shaking. "I'm going to kill him. I swear." Lucy looked at him, then nodded. "I'll leave the back door open. After that, it's all on you." The sky over Santa Fe was the color of dried blood. Daniel stepped through the rear exit of the police station, wrists still red from the cuffs. No one stopped him. The gate swung open like a bad joke. He walked into the cold fog like a ghost. In his coat pocket was the silver USB Dr. Lucy Mitchell had risked her life to give him. The key to a nightmare that had never ended. He rented an old truck from a middle-aged man named Michael Taylor, who specialized in unregistered vehicles. No plates, huh? I got one. But it'll cost ya, Michael muttered, sizing him up. You look real familiar. Daniel shoved a few crumpled USD bills into the man's hand. I need to get to Silver Creek. One way. Now. Michael sneered. Albuquerque? What's even out there besides weeds and abandoned mansions? Daniel didn't answer. He started the engine, eyes locked on the endless road ahead. The truck roared down State Route 502, flanked by skeletal black trees twisting in the wind like bones. Daniel didn't turn on the radio. Silence was the only thing keeping him sane. On the outskirts of Silver Creek, he turned onto a bumpy dirt road, once graveled, now full of potholes and overgrown bushes. The mansion loomed behind the fog concrete, withered, cold, as if life had never touched it. Daniel stepped out, feet crunching dry earth. The house made no sound. No lights. No people. But he knew, the memories were still there. The heavy wooden door groaned as he pushed it open. The foyer was almost unchanged, a worn velvet sofa, a tilted picture frame half off the wall, and a faint blood trail leading from the stairs to the hallway. He walked slowly. The wooden floor creaked beneath him. He made his way to the basement. He knew something was waiting. The basement door was heavy, but unlocked. The stench of old chemicals made him gag. The air felt thick, clinging to his skin. He flicked on the flashlight. The beam trembled across the room, dusty stainless steel tables, tangled wires hanging from the ceiling, rusted medical equipment, syringes scattered across the floor. And in the corner an infrared camera, still fixed on the wall, its red light blinking, still recording. Daniel stepped toward an old computer on the floor. A USB port was already plugged in the same kind Lucy had given him. He inserted the USB. The screen flickered, then booted up. Folders appeared. Session 041, Callie Rogers. Session 038, Brian R. Session 030, Testing with Daniel Rogers. His hands trembled. He opened the last folder. A blurry video loaded, Daniel tied to a chair, blood dripping from his mouth. A man in a lab coat and surgical mask leaned in, whispering. Resistance is pointless. You should be proud. These two children will be perfect prototypes. Video. Daniel screamed, I'll never let you touch them. The man leaned down, pulled out a dark green syringe, and injected it into the back of Daniel's neck. Instantly, Daniel's eyes in the video glazed over. His body jolted, then went limp. The screen cut to black. Daniel screamed, slammed the keyboard, and hurled it against the wall. No. No. This can't be. He collapsed, hands clenching his head. His entire body shook. Then, a different sound: shrill laughter. He looked up. The next video had started playing. Callie, no older than 5, was strapped to a metal table, her arms tied. Albert stood beside her, leaning in, whispering. Good girl, just stay quiet, and you'll go back to mommy. Callie sobbed, Mommy's dead, she burned. Albert smiled. Then let me give you a new memory. He held up a vial of pale purple liquid. Daniel slammed the screen. I'll kill you. He retched, the world spinning. Broken memories rushed back, running with Callie down a hallway, Brian screaming as he was pulled away, red lights flashing, a hand gripping his neck, the needle, and darkness. Daniel crawled to his feet. He knew if he wanted to save Callie, save Brian, he had to expose everything. He yanked the USB out, stuffed it in his coat, and moved toward the last hallway door. Behind it a small room, locked by keypad. He searched a cabinet and pulled out an old ID card. It had his face. Name, Daniel Rogers. Title, Internal Driver, Logistics Department, Clear Life Institute. He typed, F.Rogers/2310198, his birthday. The door clicked open. Inside pitch black. The air smelled of rust and dried blood. Daniel switched on his flashlight. A freezing chamber. Trays labeled. Test A1, Test C5, Test F3. One tray was open. Inside, photos of children's brains with sections blacked out. Beside it, a note. Status, permanent memory loss. Conditioned responses forming rapidly. No longer recognizes relatives. Daniel trembled, sank to the floor. He whispered. They're products of an experiment. I saved them, but my own memories were stolen. A noise echoed from the hallway. The ceiling lights flickered. Someone was coming. He shoved all the documents into his bag and fled the basement like a madman. His legs kept giving out, but he didn't stop. On the way back to Santa Fe, he didn't turn on the lights. In the rearview mirror, a black car followed silently. Brian was waiting. Callie was still captive. And Daniel. Daniel remembered everything. He returned to Santa Fe at midnight. The city was drowned in shadows. He sped through deserted intersections, gripping the USB drive like it was life itself. His mind was no longer fogged. He remembered it all. Callie's screams as she was torn from him. Brian being drugged on the steel table. Himself, screaming until his throat tore, bound to the chair, a needle plunged into his neck. Albert's calm eyes like he was watching lab rats. But there was no time left for grief. No time for pity. Callie was still trapped. And Albert was already waiting. The truck stopped at a rundown industrial complex on the city's edge, near an abandoned train track. Daniel recognized the place. It used to be a medical equipment warehouse. Now it was Clear Life's main lair, the site of the worst atrocities. The gate opened automatically. No guards. A chilling welcome. He walked in. The air froze his bones. Fluorescent lights flickered above. The hallway blinding white, sterile to the point of cruelty. A voice echoed over the intercom. Welcome home, Daniel Rogers. I knew you'd come. Daniel clenched his jaw. Albert, if you touched her, I swear I'll tear you apart. The voice chuckled. But if you do anything reckless, I'll let her little brother watch her disappear. A door opened at the end of the corridor. Daniel stepped in. A blindingly bright room. In the center, Callie. Strapped to a metal chair. Leather cuffs around her wrists. EEG sensors glued to her scalp. She saw him and screamed. Daddy! Don't let them do this to me. Daddy! Daniel lunged forward, but two armed guards raised their weapons, stopping him. Albert stepped out from the shadows. For the first time, Daniel saw his face clearly, pale, neatly combed hair, black gloves. He held a gray syringe, small and cold as death. You remember everything now, don't you? Albert asked, voice gentle as a tea party host. Daniel panted. I remember everything. Every child you turned into a shell. I remember. Albert nodded. Good. Then you understand what's happening here. He lifted the syringe. This is the refined version. Just one dose and she'll forget everything, her name, age, emotions, memories, even fear. A clean slate. Callie screamed. I don't want to forget. Daddy. Don't let me forget Mommy. Daniel shouted, "What do you want?" Albert placed the syringe on a metal tray. "You have two choices. 1. Inject her yourself. I'll let you and Brian go. Live out your days pretending none of this ever happened. And 2. Albert smiled. "You refuse. I inject her. Then kill you. Brian's next." Daniel stood frozen. The room fell deathly silent. His heart pounded like a war drum. Callie sobbed. "Daddy. I don't want to forget. I remember Mom. I remember you." Daniel turned to Albert. "You're sick. They're just kids." "And kids," Albert shrugged, "are raw material. I'm the architect. I build a society without pain, without memory, without resistance." Daniel roared and was thrown to the floor by the guards. Blood poured from his mouth. Callie screamed. "Daddy! Don't die." Albert picked up the syringe and walked toward him. "Choose." Daniel yelled, "Let her go." "I'll do it. Do you hear me? I'll do it." Albert stepped back and nodded to the guards to release Daniel. A cold syringe was placed in his trembling hand. Callie looked at him, begging. "Daddy, don't. I don't want to forget you." Daniel clutched the syringe. His body was numb. He turned to Albert. "Fine. But I'll do it." "You're sure?" Albert raised an eyebrow. Daniel nodded. "I wanted to be gentle." He approached his daughter. Callie shrank away, terrified. Daniel whispered. "Close your eyes, baby girl. Don't look at Daddy." She obeyed, sobbing. Daniel raised the syringe. And in a flash, turned it on himself, stabbing it straight into his own vein. "No!" Albert shrieked. Daniel emptied the full dose into his bloodstream. His body convulsed. He screamed in agony, slammed into the wall, foamed at the mouth. Callie's eyes snapped open. "Daddy! Daddy!" Albert pulled a gun, roaring. "You think you won? You're just a worthless driver." Daniel crawled forward, bloodied face twisted in pain, and whispered. "You forgot, Albert, you taught me how to use the infrared cameras." Albert froze. "What?" Daniel pulled the USB from inside his coat. "I already plugged it in, the camera's transmitting, live, you bastard." Albert's face went pale. "No. That's impossible." Daniel laughed, blood dripping from his mouth. "It's over." Albert screamed and fired. A gunshot cracked through the room. All the lights went out. Callie's scream echoed through the darkness. "Daddy!" No one answered. Only the sound of metal clattering to the floor, and blood dripping. Santa Fe, at dawn. The rain had stopped. The sky was still overcast, like always, but something in the air had shifted like the darkness had cracked, and the first ray of light was pushing through. In the newsroom of the World Times, veteran journalist Teresa Vaughn was prepping the morning broadcast when a message flashed on her screen. "Camera VCL 001, live." "What the hell is this?" she muttered, clicking it open. The screen shook slightly. The image showed a white room, a child strapped to a chair, and a man in a suit pointing a gun. "Albert Parker." "Teresa," her assistant Lily Simmons shouted from the corner. "External feeds are showing a strange broadcast hitting our servers." "It's not strange, Lily. It's evidence. Put us on emergency live stream." "Now," Teresa commanded. Across the country, on TVs in homes, cafes, stores, footage streamed live: child torture, threats to a father, and a memory-erasing syringe. No one could turn it off. No one dared to look away. Callie's voice echoed through the silence. "I don't want to forget Daddy. I remember Mom. I remember everything. Millions of hearts clenched. The curtain of lies had collapsed. At City Police Headquarters, Chief Inspector Samuel Ingram had just arrived when a flurry of emergency calls overwhelmed the command center. "Chief Ingram," an officer shouted. "National TV is live-streaming Albert Parker torturing children." "What?" He rushed to the big screen watching Albert scream inside the White Room. "You think you won? You're just a filthy driver." Ingram's expression hardened. "Mobilize the special unit. Now. Coordinate with the World Times. Track the source. Target, Albert Parker. National-level warrant." At the Clear Life Institute headquarters, phones rang non-stop. Stocks plummeted. An emergency email from the Department of Internal Affairs was sent to all staff. Immediate suspension of all Clear Life Institute operations. Freeze all accounts. All personnel banned from leaving the country. Emergency investigation launched. Back at the underground facility, Callie still sobbed beside her father's lifeless body. Albert, stunned by the exposure, spun toward the exit. He screamed. "Cut the power. Shut off the camera. Now." But it was too late. A voice echoed from the ceiling speakers. "Signal detected, recorded, and broadcast on 14 platforms. You are now officially wanted. Comply or be shot on sight." The door burst open. GEO tactical officers stormed in, weapons aimed. "No. I have money. I know people. One officer punched him square in the face. "Shut up. Scum like you are the trash of this country." Callie was carried out, still clutching her father's bloodied coat. A female officer, Lieutenant Anna Moore, knelt beside her. "You're Callie, right? You're safe now. We're taking you home." Callie whispered. "Daddy. Daddy's going to wake up, right?" Anna gripped her hand tight. "You'll never be alone again." The entire facility was sealed. All data rooms, specimen storage, and lab equipment were documented and taken for forensic investigation. What they found defied belief. Frozen child corpses. Brainwashing footage. Neuroscans showing permanent damage. At the World Times, Teresa Vaughn went live on air. "We've just received official word from the Minister of Justice. Albert Parker has been arrested for crimes against humanity. His actions include torture, drug testing on minors, falsifying records, and targeting whistleblowers. All fully documented." Lily turned to her, voice trembling. "Teresa, you just made history." Teresa clenched her fists, eyes shining. "Not me. It was Daniel Rogers, the father no one believed, who gave everything to protect 2 children." At the emergency interrogation center, Albert sat chained to a chair under a blinding light. 3 inspectors faced him. "Do you have an attorney?" one asked. Albert smirked. "Of course I have an attorney. Not anymore. Yours just resigned. No one will defend you." Albert turned to an old officer in the corner, forcing a smile. "You know me. I worked with the minister before." Smack. A brutal slap silenced him. The old officer glared. "I had a granddaughter go missing in 2017. Her mom killed herself from grief. Today. I finally found out where her body was. In your freezer." Albert said nothing. For the first time in his life. He lowered his head. And fell silent. At a special care center, Brian opened his eyes in a white room with a painted sun on the ceiling. "Callie," he whispered. The door burst open. Callie ran in and hugged him tight, tears pouring down her cheeks. "You're awake. Do you remember me?" Brian nodded weakly. I dreamed about Dad. He said don't be afraid, he'd protect us, forever." Callie sobbed. He did, Brian. He really did. On TV, a breaking news banner ran nonstop. The Supreme Court of Los Angeles officially declares Daniel Rogers not only innocent, but a victim and a hero. Albert Parker faces 42 charges, including crimes against humanity, murder, abduction, coercion, and child torture sentenced to life without parole. The Clear Life Institute is permanently dissolved. At a small memorial near Sunridge Plaza, townspeople placed photos of the missing children. A new statue was erected. A thin man holding two children. The plaque read, Daniel Rogers, the father in the shadows. He wasn't perfect, but he was the last light those children had. 1 month later. Spring sunshine warmed Los Angeles. The air felt calm, so unlike the haunted days at the year's start. The city was healing from the nightmare named Clear Life. Inside courtroom 4 of the Los Angeles Supreme Court, every seat was filled. Reporters, lawyers, civilians, all holding their breath as two children, Callie and Brian Rogers, sat on the witness stand, hands clasped tightly together. Judge Elena Bennett, known for her integrity and rigor, rose to deliver the final verdict, her voice ringing through the chamber. After reviewing all evidence provided by investigators and the press, after hearing testimony from victims, witnesses, and forensic experts, this court declares Albert Parker is guilty of crimes against humanity and sentenced to life without parole. All assets are seized to compensate victims. Daniel Rogers is recognized as a victim, a whistleblower, and the legal biological father of Callie and Brian Rogers, according to the original birth certificates. All charges are dropped. His name is cleared. He is posthumously awarded the United States Medal of Honor for civilian bravery. The courtroom erupted in applause. Many cried. Some reporters wept behind their cameras. A World Times journalist sobbed openly at her press bench. In the front row, Brian whispered, "Did you hear that, sis? Dad. Dad's name is clear now." Callie squeezed his hand, eyes full of tears. "He hears us, Brian. He always hears us." After the trial, Daniel's casket was brought onto the memorial platform outside the courthouse. It wasn't a funeral. It was a tribute. Lieutenant Anna Moore, in uniform, placed the golden medal on the coffin. Daniel Rogers, the man we once doubted, is now honored by this nation. He didn't die in silence. He died as a torch in the darkness. Callie stood by, holding Brian. They gazed at the photo on the altar, the same tired, thin face, but with eyes that now shone brilliantly. "I'm sorry we let you go alone, Dad," Callie whispered. "But I promise, we'll live well. So you can be proud." 2 months later. A small house on the outskirts of Palm Springs, with red tile roof and a lavender garden in front. Not fancy, but filled with sunlight and peace. Brian sat on the porch, coloring a drawing. Callie brought him a glass of orange juice. "What are you drawing?" she asked. "I'm drawing him," Brian said, still focused on the paper. Callie frowned. "Albert?" Brian nodded. "But this time, he has no face." Callie fell silent. A breeze drifted by, carrying scents of sunshine and grass. Inside, the TV played a news report. Today, the Minister of Interior officially signed the dissolution of Clear Life Institute. All assets are transferred to the Daniel Rogers Child Victim Recovery Fund. Callie and Brian Rogers, two miraculous survivors, have been granted lifelong scholarships and legal guardianship under Teresa Vaughn, the government's special representative. The front door opened. "It's lunchtime." Teresa walked in, holding 2 warm bags of pastries. "I bet someone's hungry." Brian jumped up and hugged her tight. "Miss Teresa. I just finished my drawing. Let me see." Teresa laughed. The boy handed her the drawing. A simple picture, 3 people sitting at a table, sunlight pouring through the window, lavender blooming outside on the porch. Callie stood behind him, eyes glistening. "You drew our home, didn't you?" Brian nodded. "We're a family. That's our home." Teresa set the bag of pastries down and wrapped her arms around both of them. "Well, now it's just right. No more experiments, no more blood, no more erased memories. Just warm bread and smiles." That night, the three of them sat around a small wooden dining table. Callie cut the cake and poured juice for her brother. Teresa told a story. "Back then, I thought I'd retire at a beach in Cadiz, raise cats and grow tomatoes. But then the universe brought me two very special little ones." Brian asked, "Do you regret it?" Teresa looked at him, serious. "If I had known life would lead me to this day, I wouldn't change a thing." Callie smiled. "Dad used to say, not everyone is born good. But some people even after death are never forgotten." In the small bedroom, Callie placed a picture frame on the nightstand. It was a photo of her, Brian, and Daniel taken back when they still lived under the dim lights of the old boarding house. Brian climbed into bed and asked, "Sis, do you think Dad is watching us right now?" Callie nodded gently. "Not just watching, he's smiling too." In a special prison cell with no windows, Albert Parker sat alone. He had aged rapidly, his hair gray, his beard unkempt. A guard walked by and tossed a newspaper into his room. Daniel Rogers, the father in the shadows, declared a national hero. Albert stared at the headline. Then he burst out laughing. "They think they've won," he muttered. A voice replied from the cell next door. "They don't think. They have won." Back at the little house, Callie placed her father's old notebook on the table. She opened the first page. The handwriting was messy, but honest and heartfelt. "If one day I'm no longer here, please let Callie and Brian know, I love them more than my own life." She gently closed it and held it to her chest. From behind, Brian called out, "Sis, come here. The sunset is really beautiful." Callie stepped onto the porch. The three of them, Callie, Brian, and Teresa, sat side by side, the golden light of dusk glowing in their hair, reflecting off the old wooden frame of the door. No more gunfire. No more screaming. No more white rooms. Only family. And freedom. This story reminds us that a father's love, however imperfect, can be stronger than death and more powerful than any lie. When truth is twisted, media manipulated, and conscience threatened, only courage and a steadfast heart can protect what matters most. Not everyone is born to be a hero. But those who sacrifice themselves to protect children are the last light in the deepest dark. Truth, no matter how late, always wins.
If you enjoyed this story, we invite you to give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Your support motivates us to keep bringing heartwarming stories almost every day. We are very grateful for your support. See you soon.